Dear atheists, why do you grant such stupid premises when arguing over the existence of Yahweh? We're not talking about this nebulous, exists outside space and time, nebulous God concept. We're talking about a specific deity. And the only place we learn about this deity from an allegedly reliable source is the Bible. So, when we go about examining the Bible at no point says Yahweh is existing outside space and time. It only lists him as existing corporeally, like in the garden in Genesis 3:8, where he's walking through looking for Adam and Eve, or in Genesis 32:22, I believe. Yeah. It's when Jacob and him wrestle through the night, and he gets blessed. They physically wrestle. And that's when Jacob becomes Israel. Then you have him appearing to Job in chapters 37 and 38 in a whirlwind. And later in Exodus, there's a part in 19 where he meets with Moses on top of Mount Zion with in the clouds and the fire and all that. So he has conferences with people. In fact, there's one in Numbers 11. Yeah. I think it's around verse 17-ish, where he comes down, explicitly says he comes down and visits with them, Moses and the 70 elders in the meeting tent. So you have all these different times when Yahweh is explained as having a physical existence. That is a complete contrast to existing outside space and time, because physicality doesn't matter. When looking at matter, it has physicality. That is where all of its properties come from, is the physical nature of it. If you exist outside of the physical nature of our reality, you necessarily don't have physicality, and there's no point in talking about something as though it can exist corporeally while it doesn't exist corporeally. It's an incoherent concept. So, when we're talking about Yahweh, as described in the Bible, it's a corporeal thing. And in order to disprove this, it's not that hard. You can, one, look at the attributations to Yahweh that are contradictory. You can take all the things that are historically said to have been done by Yahweh and disprove them, because they didn't happen. Very few did, and it was the Israelite people. You can show the evolution of Yahweh. The only corner Christians will run to try to extrapolate out that Yahweh is this nebulous God that you can't disprove would be a running back to the first creation account starting in Genesis 1:1 running to 2:3. And that's where they're talking about the Elohim. And that's a group of gods that's in that first one. Specifically in 1:26, you'll see where the one God talks to the others and says, "Let us go down and make them in our image," all plural tense, making humans by gods. So that's a whole different thing. It's different in that it's a rehashing of a different creation myth than the second creation account starting in 2:4 that has Yahweh as the primary character. Yahweh is in the first creation account 0 times, and in the second 7. starting at 2:4, running into, I think, the beginning of 5, if my memory serves correctly. So, Yahweh doesn't appear as the character Yahweh until the second creation account. So, not all the early Israelites that had their workings weaved together believed in this particular God, and that's evident throughout the Pentateuch. But the thing about it is Yahweh was given all the other gods' powers very shortly after the first couple of books. And so most of it's written as though Yahweh was the original God that it was talking about. So it's hard to tease those out. But you can definitely see that Yahweh is not the God of Genesis 1 through 2, 3. The literary style is all different. The word selection is different. The Hebrew word for God is Elohim, as in contrast to Yahweh, which is later Yovah and Yahovah or Jehovah, whatever language you speak, whether you use vowels or not. But that's a whole different thing. Anyways, just wanted to say, if you're arguing against a God concept, you're not going to win. They're just going to morph it and change it because it has no basis in reality. You're not arguing against a thing. You're arguing against an idea of a thing that likely doesn't exist and doesn't matter if it exists. The belief in the deist God has nothing to do with anything. Whether you believe it in or not, it has no value one way or the other. It's just empty. Okay, I'm a deist. What does that change about your life? The creator of the universe does all things scientifically. Well, what the hell does that mean? Everything's scientific to begin with. You're just adding something. So belief in it doesn't really matter because it doesn't change perspective all that much. And I've never seen a deist holy book, so yeah, that's the thing there that's stupid. So, atheist, big complaint. If you're arguing against Yahweh, that dude doesn't exist. He can be demonstrated false. And there's no reason to grant the deist God for Yahweh at all. If you're arguing against Yahweh, you got the game in hand. That dude's demonstrably false. So, something to think about, and quit giving the game away.